Jim Schwartz's name has been floated in NFL circles before, but this time the stakes feel different, because the Cleveland Browns are facing more than just a leadership void. As the team navigates its complex coaching search, another challenge unfolded behind closed doors: the high-profile burglary at Shedeur Sanders' home. This wasn't a random theft. It was a mass, coordinated operation that shook both Sanders and the broader Cleveland community. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Now, with 3 suspects arrested and 1 still evading capture, Medina County officials are pushing for final accountability. It's a stark reminder that off-field events can deeply shape a team's atmosphere. Sanders isn't just recovering from a loss of property. He's navigating the emotional aftermath of a violation. Meanwhile, the Browns' leadership questions linger. With interviews ongoing and no confirmed direction, the organization stands at a crossroads, balancing the urgency of safety with the pressure of performance. Every decision now matters, both on and off the field. 3 suspects arrested, 1 still on the run. That's where we are right now in the months-long investigation into the burglary at Shedeur Sanders' home. It was a case that had been simmering quietly in the background of the Browns season until this week. The Medina County Sheriff's Office confirmed that 3 individuals have been taken into custody in connection to the high-profile break-in that saw roughly $200,000 worth of property stolen. Authorities say the suspects entered Sanders' residence wearing gloves and masks, clearly prepared and coordinated. They spent around 10 minutes inside before fleeing with stolen items, likely assuming they'd never be tracked down. But they were wrong. Surveillance footage captured them leaving the scene, and over time, investigators managed to identify 3 of the 4 suspects involved. The 4th remains at a press conference was announced to provide updates and answer questions about the case. Scheduled for January 8th, it's expected to give further insight into how these arrests came together and what steps law enforcement is taking to track down the remaining suspect. It's not just about justice for Sanders. It's about community reassurance. The sheriff's office has reportedly been methodical throughout the process, combing through video evidence, tracking digital footprints, and interviewing witnesses. The update is significant for the public, who've been waiting months for closure since the initial reports of the burglary first surfaced. While there's relief in seeing progress, the case isn't fully closed until that final suspect is in custody. For Sanders, the experience hasn't just been a financial loss. A home invasion is personal. It's invasive. It leaves behind a kind of psychological aftermath that doesn't get patched up by arrest reports or recovered property. Even for a high-profile quarterback in the middle of his NFL grind, that kind of breach takes a toll. The trauma of knowing someone was in your private space, your safe zone, doesn't just disappear when the news cycle moves on. And let's not overlook the message this sends to other athletes and public figures. No matter your status, your home isn't guaranteed to be safe. This wasn't just theft. It was targeted. It was organized. And it reminds everyone that fame can come with risks that are rarely discussed publicly. While all this was unfolding off the field, Sanders kept showing up on it. He's been in the lineup, showing up to training, attending meetings, and still doing interviews like nothing's wrong. That's the level of composure fans often take for granted. But behind the scenes, this case was hanging over everything. There's been no major public statement from Sanders yet beyond confirmation of cooperation with law enforcement. But insiders say he's appreciative of the community support and is expected to comment more following the sheriff's press conference. The silence hasn't been avoidance. It's been strategy. Let law enforcement do their job first. Switching gears, the Browns' off-season coaching search is officially heating up. As of this week, multiple candidates have been contacted, and interviews are already underway. One of the names making headlines is Tommy Rees, the current offensive coordinator being considered by the team. Rees has reportedly already been in talks with the Browns front office and is viewed as a potential fit for the team's long-term strategy. What's interesting about Rees's inclusion is that the Browns are casting a wide net. They're not just going for flashy hires. They're evaluating skill sets, offensive balance, and whether a coach fits the evolving culture of the organization. Rees brings youth, offensive creativity, and a fresh perspective, But the Browns aren't stopping. Jim Schwartz is also firmly in the conversation. With defensive credibility and experience in pressure-heavy environments, Schwartz brings a different kind of energy to the table. He's not a new name in league circles, but the Browns' interest in him shows they're open to veteran leadership, possibly as a complement to a younger offensive coordinator. Photos and coverage from inside the organization suggest that Schwartz has had multiple sit-downs already, though nothing official has been announced. He's a known quantity in terms of defensive philosophy, but whether that aligns with Cleveland's current vision is still to be seen. The overall tone from a Browns front office has been measured. They're not rushing into anything, and they've made it clear that they're keeping their options open. Beyond Reese and Schwartz, the team has also spoken with Bengals offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher. He's a strategic name with strong ties to quarterback development, making him a potential match for where the Browns want to go next. There's also speculation around Aiden Dirt potentially entering the mix. While there hasn't been confirmation of a scheduled interview, internal sources believe he's on the radar. His name has been brought up enough that it's not just background noise. It's a legit possibility. One notable absence from updates so far is any definitive word on Kevin Stefanski. Rumors have been swirling that he may be on his way to New York, though nothing has been signed or finalized. If Stefanski does end up leaving, it would explain the Browns' urgency in speaking with such a wide range of candidates. As of now, he's still officially with the organization, but his future is murky. He said very little publicly about the coaching search, and when pressed in post-game interviews, he's kept things vague. But if you read between the lines, there's a sense of transition. Whether that's mutual or initiated by the team is unclear. But either way, there's movement behind the scenes. Stefanski sidestepped direct questions about the team's direction and his role in it. When asked about candidate interviews, he deflected, emphasizing focus on the team and respect for the process. It was classic coach speak, but the avoidance was telling. As other candidates continue to emerge, it seems less and less likely that Stefanski is part of the Browns' long-term plan. If the front office truly wanted him back, the public tone would be more definitive. Right now, it feels like both sides are preparing for a clean break, and it's just a matter of when, not if. One name still lingering in speculation is John Harbaugh. There have been whispers about his possible move to Cleveland, but nothing credible has been confirmed. The Browns haven't denied the connection, but they haven't confirmed interest either. It's one of those rumors that hangs in the background, not loud, but not going away. Harbaugh's ties to the AFC North make the idea of him flipping within the division a compelling storyline. But until something concrete emerges, it remains exactly that, speculation. For now, he's still with Baltimore, and the Browns are staying tight-lipped about any potential pursuit. Dan Pitcher's name might not have sparked headlines right away, but inside NFL circles, he's quietly gaining attention. As the Bengals' offensive coordinator, Pitcher has had a solid run developing quarterbacks and working with dynamic offensive pieces. The Browns know they need someone who can mold and manage talent without getting swallowed by pressure, and that's exactly what makes Pitcher a serious contender. He's already been in contact with the organization. Sources suggest those conversations are more than just exploratory. The front office sees value in his communication style, scheme adaptability, and ability to develop younger talent, something that becomes crucial when building around a high-profile quarterback like Shedeur Sanders. The Browns don't want a coach who's just reactive. They want someone who can evolve with the team. And then there's Aiden Dirt, the unknown variable, the wild card. Dirt doesn't have a resumed flash of a Harbaugh or the built-in familiarity of a Schwartz, but that might be the point. Sometimes teams want fresh blood, someone not already defined by their past. The Browns haven't confirmed a formal interview with Dirt, but league insiders say he's under strong consideration. His name keeps circulating in the background, and that's rarely a coincidence in this league. When a candidate keeps coming up, especially without a PR push behind them, it usually means someone in the building sees something. Dirt's case is still pending, but the conversation isn't going away. The coaching carousel is spinning, and Kevin Stefanski is right in the middle of it. Regardless of whether he lands in New York or stays put, his time with the Browns feels like it's winding down. That's not said lightly. Stefanski helped bring structure during turbulent seasons, but this organization wants a spark, not just stability. From the outside, the Stefanski situation has been weirdly quiet. No official word, no farewell, just vague pressers and open-ended statements. And yet, behind closed doors, the coaching search is active, vibrant even, which tells you everything. The Browns are planning for life after Stefanski, whether it starts next week or next season. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders has been moving forward, on the field, in the gym, at press conferences, with a kind of quiet resilience. But the arrest related to his home invasion brought that chapter roaring back into public view. For Sanders, it's progress. But it's also a reminder that justice takes time and healing takes longer. He hasn't gone on a media tour. No dramatic sound bites. Just focused comments, shared in select interviews, acknowledging the seriousness of the case while deferring to law enforcement. It's a mature approach, especially for someone constantly under the microscope. Still, you can feel the weight of it behind the athletes are expected to bounce back from anything, but not every bruise is physical. The trauma of a home invasion is complex. You question your safety. You reevaluate who you let in, who you trust, and what's worth protecting. For someone like Sanders, who already lives with the pressure of expectation, this wasn't just an attack on property. It was an attack on peace. He didn't take games off. He didn't ask for time. He just kept showing up, which makes the recent arrest feel like a turning point, not just for the investigation, but for his sense of closure. It's not over, not until that final suspect is caught, but it's a step, a needed one. That's why the upcoming press conference from the Medina County Sheriff's Office matters. This isn't just routine procedure. It's about transparency, justice, and closure. People want to know how this happened, how the suspects were identified, and what steps are being taken to prevent something like this from happening again. Sanders isn't expected to speak at the event, but his presence looms over the whole thing. It's a reminder that these aren't just stories. They're real lives. The sheriff's office plans to release more details about how they link the suspects to the break-in, and potentially how close they are to catching the fourth individual. For Sanders and the community, that update could bring relief or more questions. Through it all, the season moved forward. Browns fans saw Sanders push through distractions, bad press cycles, and personal challenges without flinching. He's been part of every big moment, every huddle, every sideline interaction. But you can bet his mind was occasionally somewhere else. And still, he delivered. No public excuses. No dramatic outbursts. He let his play speak. It's easy to get lost in stats and wins, but what Sanders showed off the field might be even more valuable than what he did on it. Composure, accountability, resilience. The Browns as a franchise are in flux, on and off the field. A quarterback navigating personal trauma. A head coach possibly on his way out. A front office juggling candidate interviews, media pressure, and fan expectations. All while trying to build a team identity that lasts longer than a playoff push. There's a bigger conversation happening about what this franchise is becoming. The arrests in Sanders' case intersect with that in a surprising way, not just because of the drama, but because of the reflection it forced, about security, about leadership, about what kind of culture the Browns are building. That's why Tommy Rees remains such an interesting candidate. He doesn't come with baggage. He's not attached to the old systems. He's viewed as someone who could come in, relate to players like Sanders, and help transition the offense into something more modern and player-friendly. Rees is still in the mix, and while no decisions have been made, his name continues to come up in every serious conversation about the Browns' future. Whether that future begins next week or after another season remains to be seen. But if Rees gets the job, it signals a clear reset, a departure from past leadership towards something more adaptive. And then there's Jim Schwartz, still looming in the wings, veteran presence, defensive mind, a stabilizing option if the team decides to balance out a young offensive hire with experienced support. He's already met with the Browns brass multiple times, and his familiarity with league dynamics gives him an edge, especially in a locker room that's already been through emotional highs and lows. Recent internal shots suggest he's still very much in the building, figuratively and literally. Nothing about his candidacy screams headline grabber, but maybe that's the point. The Browns aren't chasing headlines. They're trying to build something that lasts. Kevin Stefanski's latest post-game interview didn't answer any of the real questions people were asking. He kept things neutral, repeatedly pointing back to team focus and staying in the moment. That's been his go-to posture throughout this whole coaching speculation storm. But fans aren't buying anymore. The body language told a different story. It wasn't just tired. It was checked out. You don't need a PR degree to spot when someone's already halfway out the door. And at this point, the Browns brass seems more interested in preparing the next chapter than convincing anyone that Stefanski is staying. That's not to take away from what Stefanski accomplished while in Cleveland. He brought a level of organization that had been missing for years. He led the team through a pandemic season, held his own through quarterback controversies, and helped stabilize a franchise known more for chaos than consistency. But stability only lasts so long without results. And with the Browns now chasing more than just regular season relevance, there's little room for pretty good. It's either next level or next candidate. And with interviews stacking up, it feels like Stefanski is already being thanked, quietly, for his service. As for Shedeur Sanders, the story doesn't end with arrests and surveillance footage. This whole experience marks a turning point in how people perceive his off-the-field presence. Before, he was a rising star quarterback with a famous last name. Now, he's also a public figure who's endured real violation and real fear and stayed composed through it all. Sanders has handled the media attention like a seasoned vet. He hasn't turned the incident into a media blitz or gone looking for sympathy. Instead, he's chosen calculated silence, waiting for facts to come out and justice to play its course. That kind of discipline isn't just rare, it's earned. Still, it's hard to overstate how deeply a situation like this can affect a player. You can train your arm, sharpen your reads, and study film all day, but you can't prep for the feeling of having your sanctuary breached. That stays with you. And it doesn't disappear just because you show up for practice the next day. His teammates have rallied behind him, according to insiders, though no one's wanted to speak publicly about it out of respect. But you can see it in the way they block for him, the way they pat him on the helmet, the extra second they take in the locker room. There's a quiet solidarity in moments like this, and Sanders hasn't stood alone. Now, all eyes are on the Medina County Sheriff's Office and their scheduled press conference. There's anticipation, but also unease, because even with 3 arrests, the case isn't over. There's still one suspect missing. And the longer that 4th person stays free, the more it feels like justice is just out of reach. The department's decision to go public with detailed updates is being seen as a move to restore confidence, not just for Sanders, but for the broader Cleveland community that's followed this case closely. People want transparency. They want to know how something like this happened in their city, and what's being done to prevent it from happening again. On the field, Sanders has kept delivering. His numbers speak for themselves, but what matters more is his ability to lead under pressure, real pressure, not the media kind. The kind that comes when your name is in headlines for something that has nothing to do with football. Fans who were once skeptical of his poise are starting to shift. The burglary didn't derail him. It didn't become an excuse. It became a data point in a bigger story. One where Sanders is proving that he can take a hit in life the same way he takes one in the pocket, bounce back, recalibrate, and keep moving. The Browns organization has been navigating both stories at once. Coaching shifts and quarterback fallout, and trying not to let either one define the season. That's easier said than done. When your potential franchise QB is dealing with personal trauma, and your head coach may be halfway gone, holding the ship steady becomes a full-time job. Still, there's a sense that the front office has grown more comfortable making bold decisions. The coaching interviews haven't leaked accidentally. The names are out there on purpose. It's a message. Change is coming, and it won't wait for perfect timing. And for the first time in a while, the Browns don't seem scared of that. John Harbaugh's name still floats in the rumor mill, though nothing tangible has emerged. That hasn't stopped fans from speculating, especially given the AFC North dynamics. A jump from Baltimore to Cleveland would be massive, shocking, maybe even divisive. But as of now, it's just talk. No sightings, no scheduled meetings, no whispers from inside the building. If Harbaugh is in play, the Browns are doing a world-class job keeping it under wraps. And that's why the coaching speculation continues to swirl. Because the silence isn't calming anyone. It's just fueling more questions. Back to Dan Pitcher, whose candidacy has quietly gained momentum. He's not the headline grabber, but he might be the smartest fit. Young, proven, and respected by quarterbacks who work with him. Pitcher represents the kind of modern coaching mold that can work long-term. He's said to have a strong rapport with other offensive staffers. And that chemistry matters. The Browns are reportedly prioritizing cultural alignment just as much as XS and OS. They don't want another mismatch. They want someone who can grow with the team, not just manage it. Aiden Dirt remains the wild card, a dark horse with potential, and likely the riskiest option on the table. But sometimes risk is what turns a good team into a great one. Dirt's ideas are considered unconventional, and he hasn't led at this level before, but his name keeps popping up in internal circles. Whether he gets an interview or not, his presence in the rumor pool speaks volumes about what the Browns are considering. Everything. They're not limiting the search to safe choices. They're willing to hear from newer voices, alternative systems, and coaches who might bring unexpected energy to the room. And that's where things stand right now. 3 suspects behind bars. One still out there. A quarterback carrying personal weight while still showing up for his team. A head coach possibly heading out the door. And a front office that's quietly reworking the blueprint while everyone watches and waits. So what do you think? Is Shedeur Sanders handling this the way a franchise player should? Are the Browns making the right coaching moves? Or just stirring the pot again? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you're keeping up with the madness, hit that like button, share with someone who needs the update, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next twist in this saga.